Some people buy stunning houses or build stunning houses, then they spend a lot of years regretting the location. Most times the house is actually impressive, the finishing is excellent. Whoever
Mm-hmm.
built it or owns it would spend millions building it. Yet years later, the same owner now struggles with poor access road, low property appreciation,
Mm.
security concerns, or
Yeah,
difficulty finding buyers or tenants.
exactly.
Now, the reality is this: many people spend more time choosing a house than they spend choosing the location or observing the location. And that is actually where your mistake, I won't say your mistake, that's actually where the mistake begins. Yeah.
So a beautiful house cannot fix a weak environment.
Bam.
A lot of buyers just assume that once they have a beautiful house, probably
Yeah.
maybe you build a beautiful house or you rent a house that is beautiful, everything else will work out.
Mm,
But the reality is that it doesn't always play out
that
that
way.
way, right? So you can renovate a building,
Mm-hmm.
you can repaint the building,
Mm-hmm.
right? You can even upgrade the interior of the building.
Yeah.
You can design the, like redesign the of the building. But one thing you cannot do is relocate that building to another place. Like this
You
just
can't.
reminded me of something earlier today on site. One of
Yeah.
our colleagues just saw one fine house that was complete. I was like, may then just move this one and go my village.
Imagine that.
you know,
When you are talking, I was literally watching, okay, how can I
like
move the
let's
house?
you
Like,
get
it's not
right.
possible. Mm.
So the environment around where your property is often
Yeah.
determines the long-term success of that property if you own that property in terms of rental income, and then it also determines the long-term value of that property more than the building itself. Like I earlier stated, you can
Yeah.
do every other thing, but the location, the environment, you can barely do something about it. So this is why a lot of intelligence buyers, they say that you buy your location first. What that simply
Mm.
means is beyond the house, beyond the structure,
Yeah.
what environment are you buying into?
So, in today's session, we are going to be telling you reasons why many people make this mistake, why they buy a house or build a dream house as it were, and then after a period of time, they no longer value it. They struggle with a lot of things.
Exactly.
The point we're going to talk about is the reason why this kind of thing happens. And number one is because you chose, I'll stop saying you, because they chose a property based on emotions instead of
Mm,
long-term value. You see, one of the biggest mistake most buyers make is falling in love with the property before evaluating it properly. You see the house, you see the tiles, and oh, the tiles are so beautiful. Oh my god! Or you see the bathroom fittings and all of those things.
all their
The
aesthetics.
interior, right? You
Yeah.
see all of those things, and then you fall in love with it because the house looks beautiful. They imagine themselves living there, seeing it alone. You've put in, arranged everything, put your bed, everything where it's supposed to be.
Right?
And luckily, you go with a sales, you go with a realtor like me. I will tell you how sweet it can be. The presentation is just convincing. You want to make a decision fast because of just what you're seeing inside of the building.
Mm,
Now, there's nothing wrong with emotions. It's good to love a building. But however, real estate does not respect your emotions. You should approach it strategically. You should ask questions like, what will this property be worth in 5 years? After seeing all the beauty you've seen there, but what will it be
yeah.
worth in 5 years?
Yeah.
What developments are coming to the area? Is demand
Mm,
increasing? Does the property solve my long-term goals? Now, that's a very important question. Beyond what you're seeing now, in the long
true.
term, will it still be valuable to you? If it loses its value to you, that is when you begin to call the same dream house your nightmare,
Mm-hmm.
right? So don't just buy because it looks good, because
Mm,
it's big, it's fancy, and all of that. You have to make sure you're buying something that will still create value for you tomorrow.
tomorrow. Exactly. That's amazing. So the second point is when you focus more on the building and ignore the location.
Hmm.
We started by, mentioning this a little, just talking about it briefly.
Yeah.
But going deeper, a lot of buyers sometimes just keep discussing the floor plans, the tiles, the paint color, the interior finishing. They want to buy a house, they're checking all of those things. They are important. It is
Yes.
good to check them, right? But you spend very little time researching the location. And at the end of the day, you live in an area where your house is beside a church. So while you were looking at the house, checking all of the building, whether it matches what you want, whether it meets the standards and everything, you forgot to check the environment properly.
Yeah.
And then you sleep in the night, but you cannot sleep. So there was a time in my life where I lived in a place where the house across was a church, and they always hold night vigils.
I.
So out of 7 days in a week, we would be able to sleep peacefully barely 3 days out of 7 days in a week. So you wouldn't want to find yourself living in that kind of environment.
Yeah.
And most times these things are very easy to ignore. So the best thing for you to do is, as we've already stated, you can upgrade your building, the entire design, bring
Yes.
it down, put up another mansion, but you cannot move that land, that you can't move that location. It will still be on that same land. So when going to buy a property, or when looking out to buy a property, ensure that you check the environment. Now, when we talk about the environment, don't just check the location itself, check the rental demand of that area, check if
Yeah.
that property will be able to appreciate in the nearest future.
Mm.
Then check security. How is the access to that place, like, who are the type of people that have access to that area, who are the people that go
Yeah.
out, who are the people that come in. And then the roads, are the roads motorable, right? And then look out for future developments. Do you see any sign of maybe individual development in that location? Do you see any sign of maybe government doing anything in that location? So the building is important, yes, but the location will determine the building's future in terms of appreciation and value.
Salient point. Very salient point. No wonder they say in real estate. I hardly say that, but it's because it's cliche. They say in
Yeah.
real estate, everything is location, location, location.
Location.
But then it's actually true. The next point is talk about the location. Now is not researching future developments in the area.
Mhm.
You see, we don't have to buy. You don't have to buy based only on what you see today.
Exactly.
That's why they contact professional realtors and people who understudy an area, because you have to buy based on what is coming tomorrow. Oftentimes, you may not know this, but if you contact professionals, realtors, they can tell you what is likely to come there, because future developments can dramatically increase property value. The Wuye story remains my favorite. One single bridge that connected Wuse to Wuye, boom, everything goes up.
Changed. Yeah.
Examples, other examples include new highways. For example, the property we have in Apowasa.
Yeah.
Once the express that's being gets closer and passes in front of the property, it goes up. Government projects, commercial centers, airports, universities, industrial hubs, shopping malls, things like this, if they are proposed to come around the property, they're definitely going to increase the value of
that
of
property.
an area.
Yeah.
Because most areas often look ordinary before major development happens. It's normal.
True.
The people who benefit the most are usually the ones who buy early, if they know of the future developments and do their research. But by the time everyone else notices the opportunity, the prices have already increased. This is why you need to work with professionals that understand, in a place like Enugu, the master plan, understand the terrain, understand what's likely to come to that area, so they can help you actually not just buy off the location, but buy based on future developments coming there as well.
Nice one. That was amazing. So the next one we're looking at is overlooking accessibility and daily convenience. This is so important and it's something that cannot be ignored. Imagine you live in a place where coming out is an issue. maybe during rainy season, because of how bad the road is, you is no longer motorable when the rains come, right? So accessibility affects both lifestyle and investment performance. So before you pay for that house in that location you're already looking at, ask yourself these questions. How easy is it to get to the property?
Exactly.
How easy? How far it is from the major roads, right? How long is the commute time to and fro? So, what essential services are nearby? So, properties that are located to places like schools, hospitals, shopping malls, business districts, right? Major roads usually attract stronger demand. And this brings me to something I experienced yesterday. So, a client reached out and just gave circled somewhere around the map of Abuja where we have the major districts from Guzape, Asokoro, Meitama, and just told me, I don't want a property beyond,
Interesting.
right, beyond these
I
places.
like this kind of client.
Yes, he knew what he wanted. And he
Exactly.
told me the reason why. He said, anything far from here will affect my goal of investment. Anything
Okay.
far from here will affect my goal of investment. And I really love that for that client, right?
I
So,
do. It's
yeah,
beautiful.
because he was checking beyond the price, beyond the property itself. He was looking at the environment where
Yes,
that
yes.
property is going to be located. So it is very, very important. Now, while he was trying to check and see that the environment aligns with his goals, and his main goal was for the future value of the property. So if it doesn't align, it means it's going to affect the future, the long-term value of that property. And another angle to look at this is convenience. Naturally, we as human beings, we love convenience, right? So imagine living in a place where you have all of these things together. The road is accessible, there are schools, there are markets, there are hospitals, everything is well planned. It makes life easy for you. You don't have to travel, spend hours in traffic. Going through that kind of stress is likely to reduce your shelf life even. So nobody wants to go through that level of stress, and convenience also increases value. So you find out that properties that are located in locations or environment that have all of these tend to attract more buyers, and the more
Yes.
demand increase in value, right? So a beautiful property that is difficult to access often, become difficult to sell later in the future.
A beautiful property that is difficult to access also becomes difficult to sell in the future. Wow. Wow. Let me not hit on that, but this is something that I feel every client, if you're watching this, should have in mind. If possible, understand the location, know this part you want to buy from before you come in. So you don't come and tell us, give me 15 from different 15. So that's by the way. I love that clients, by the way. Okay, the next point is ignoring security and neighborhood quality. She mentioned a little bit of it when she was talking about neighborhood quality. Yes, a property's environment actually does matter, right? The quality of neighborhood often influences your quality of lifestyle.
Exactly.
If you live in a place where okay, let's not go there. All I'm trying to say is that the security conditions before you buy, assess things like the security conditions, neighboring development, the type of residents that live there, estate management standards if you're buying from an estate, the general cleanliness and maintenance of the area.
Very
Okay, it's very
important.
important. You have to find out, know how these things work. If you're moving into an estate, are you going to be responsible for just your own, or there's a body that sees for the cleanliness of the whole estate, so that you be keeping your own clean and your neighbor is not keeping clean, and then tomorrow you will fight, things like that. Because people want to live where they feel safe.
Yeah.
Beyond the house, if you live in a very fine house, you're taking good care of your own plot, your own environment, and others are not.
And not.
You will-
It does something to your,
exactly. So you study the area to find out, okay, are the people around are intentional as myself in keeping clean, maintenance, and things like that. Businesses want to operate where customers feel comfortable,
yeah.
and investors want to invest where demand is growing. What you should understand is, if the neighborhood is attracting the right kind of clientele or residents and is secure as well, definitely demand is going to grow because everybody values security. I do. It's not a luxury. I value security, right? Everybody does. To be able to achieve more with life, you have to ensure that you're secure. You're living in a secure environment. And this makes it a major factor in property value.
Right. So if you've been watching us till this very moment, I hope you're getting value. Would like to know in the comments if you're getting value. Just drop that in the comments. And over to the sixth point, buying because of cheap prices without asking why it is cheap. So the truth is, everybody loves a bargain. That's a fact. Everybody loves a
I
bargain.
do.
But smart investors understand that cheap isn't always good. So when it comes to real estate investment, when a property is significantly cheaper than the surrounding options, so there are several properties in that area, but this particular one you're interested in is just very, very cheap. You need to ask questions. That is you getting a property below the value,
Too low,
you know, the
yeah.
value of that location, right? So ask questions. So there are a lot of reasons possible. It could be possible that, you know, the area has poor accessibility. There's something wrong with the
Yeah, yeah.
accessibility and it's hidden. Maybe the title of the property has challenges you may never know. Maybe the area is a flood prone area and they are just maybe you came during dry
Dry
season to
season.
check. You wouldn't really know. Or maybe there's also slow development in that area. You could see signs of development, but it is slow, very, very slow compared to how it is supposed to be. And then there is little demand. You see, people go to that area and then they just excuse themselves and they never go back, right? And then infrastructure have issues. You're seeing a lot of infrastructure with issues. Some of these houses they build 5-story buildings and it's going like this.
Slanting tower.
You know, right?
Yeah.
So a property that appears cheap today may remain cheap for years because of these reasons I have mentioned already. Meanwhile, a slightly more expensive property in a stronger location may appreciate significantly. So price should never be the only factor when you're choosing to buy your house, right? Value should matter more to you. Value at the moment and value in the nearest future.
Now that brings us to the next point. She talked about value now and value in the nearest future. Another thing that makes people regret their dream house is when they fail to consider future resale and rental demand. You know, many buyers think about only themselves. You can't for a phase of life, unless you know it's all you've looked at your phases of life and you're sure. But if you look at the phases of life, imagine you at the time you are thinking of the house, you are thinking of just yourself, and in 2 years' time, you didn't consider certain things and then you relocate. In that fine house you built, or you relocate perhaps out of the country, and there's actually no plans for that house. You now want to rent it out, you now want to resell. If you didn't actually consider everything we've talked about before, the location, all these things, that is where the problem comes. So even if you're considering just somewhere that's comfortable for you to live in, has to be fine and all of that, I don't care if I'm working anyhow. It's just things can happen. You may change location, and when you're leaving, you may want to resell.
Yeah.
Then that is where you must think of others as well, the future resale value when you're thinking about yourself. You should ask questions like, would someone else want this property? Is the rental demand strong here? Is population growth increasing? Are businesses moving into this area? Because a property becomes a stronger investment when multiple people want access to it. That just means higher demand.
Yeah.
Always.
Always.
Demand drives value.
Exactly.
The honest truth, like we say in Nigeria, honest and truth. The honest truth is that where there is no demand, appreciation cannot happen, or it gets really difficult. So without demand, appreciation is almost not possible.
Nice one. Beautiful. So this takes us to our 8 points, which will be the last point we'll be sharing on this topic today. Not defining the purpose of the property before buying. This is very important. As a matter of fact, it should be the first consideration before all the other points we have mentioned, right? The first thing you do before buying a property is to define the purpose why you're buying the
Exactly.
property. So I mentioned earlier about a client who circled where he wanted. But the first question I asked that client was, why do you want to buy?
Mm,
Why do you want to buy land in Abuja? And he said he wanted to buy for the purpose of rental income. Guess
okay.
what? All the other properties, all the listings and everything did not align to the goal of buying. Now, when he knew why he wanted to buy, the purpose of buying, the next thing he was looking at was the environment,
Mm,
right? So it is very important that I helped him, determine what works for
mm,
him based on his purpose and his goal. So this is the first thing you should look for. This is the first thing you should consider before even talking about the other things. So every property purchase should begin with a clear objective. What are
yeah.
you buying for? Is it for residential living? Right? Now, if it is for residential living, you may want to prioritize comfort, schools, security, and convenience. So, is it for rental income? If it is for rental income, you may focus on future infrastructure
Yeah.
and growth potential. And again, are you buying for the purpose of resale profits? Do you want to resell your property later after holding on to it and probably, get some profit? You may have to focus on appreciation, opportunities, right? So
Yeah.
different goals require different strategies. You cannot use the same strategy for every goal. Each and
Yeah.
every goal or purpose of buying has its own investment strategy. So some buyers may make poor decisions because they never clearly define their purpose from
Mm,
beginning. So clarity creates better buying decisions. Now, when you understand these things, you won't just buy a property blindly for the purpose of buying sake, or maybe because you can afford that. It will
mm,
help you, make well-informed decisions and also save you some money.
mm. Now we've touched 8 things that would help you avoid your dream home becoming your nightmare later on. Now, a quick question: with this information in mind, would you rather buy a smaller home in a prime location, by prime location, somewhere that ticks off all the boxes,
Mhm.
or would you still choose to buy a massive house in the middle of the jungle, somewhere with a weak location? If you would, why? If you're going to choose a smaller home in a prime location, why? If you're going to choose a massive house in a weak location, why? You can drop your answers in the comment section. Remember, the biggest mistake in real estate isn't buying the wrong house. It
Mm.
is buying the right house
In the
in the
wrong
wrong location.
location. So the smartest property buyers don't just evaluate the building, right? They evaluate the location, the
Mhm,
future,
mhm.
the demand, the infrastructure, the accessibility, and the purpose. Like he mentioned, location is the foundation of property decision. So I believe at this point you've gotten value. If you
Yes.
did, kindly like, share, and subscribe to our channel. And if you have questions or maybe suggestions, we'd like you to drop that in, the description below. There's a number there. You can reach out to us for more guidance. So till we come your way again, have a fantastic day. Bye.